This short lesson here is a lesson on how to use the reduction formula when you have radians included in your trig expression. Okay, very important concept to remember is that pi radians is equivalent to 180 degrees. So I'll write that down, that pi radians equates to 180 degrees. So every time you see pi radians in your trig expression, you need to change the pi to 180 degrees. And that's as simple as that. Every time there is pi, replace pi with 180 and you have converted the radians to degrees. Okay, so let's look at a question where the trig expression has got radian measures. Okay, it's a question that was worth about 7 marks in the exam. So let's look at the question. It says simplify without using a calculator to a single trig ratio. Okay, now if you look carefully at the question, it's got all measures that are in degrees, but at the bottom on your denominator there is cos of 2 over 3 pi there. So that's where the radian measure is. So when we start working this out here, we need to make sure that this cos 2 over 3 pi in radians is converted to degrees to carry on with your simplification, because all other angles are measured in degrees. Okay, so let's start. 360 minus is fourth quadrant. 180 plus is third quadrant. 210 is third quadrant. And then we will look at what quadrant this lies in. Okay, but if you can just look at this here, this will be 2 multiplied by 180, which is 360. 360 divided by 2 divided by 3 is 120. 120 lies in the second quadrant. So we know that this is the second quadrant. Okay, now cos of 360 minus x is positive because it's in the fourth quadrant, so we'll keep it positive, cos of x. And 180 plus is third quadrant, sine is negative in the third quadrant, so this will be negative sine x. And then 210 is in which quadrant? Quadrant 3. Which formula do we use there? We use 180 plus. 180 plus what? To get to 210. 180 plus 30. So this will be negative sine of 30 degrees. Okay, we are done with the numerator. We come to the denominator now. Okay, the sine squared x will remain sine squared x. Okay, and then we said this is 2 multiplied by 180, which is 360, and 360 divided by 3 is 120, so this changes to cos of 120 degrees. Okay, now we know that cos of 120 degrees is going to be negative because it's in the second quadrant. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So we've got cos x multiplied by negative sine x multiplied by negative sine 30 all over sine squared x multiplied by, we said 120 is second quadrant, and how do we get to 120? You go 180 minus 60, so this is going to be negative cos of 60 degrees. Okay, and then what happens after that? The sine squared x and the sine x will divide, and on the denominator we will be left with sine x. So what we have now, we have cos x, then negative sine of 30 degrees. Let's have a look quickly. Sine of 30 degrees is 1 over 2, but it's negative, so we'll have negative 1 over 2. Negative 1 over 2. Okay, and then we will have sine x here, and then cos x. Negative cos x is also negative cos 60 is also 1 over 2 there, but because it's negative, and then our answer will also be negative 1 over 2. Okay, how many negatives do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3 negatives, so this will be negative cos x. Okay, if we have 3 negatives, then our answer must be negative. Okay, so our answer will be negative cos x over sine x, and we know that in trigonometry cos x over sine x is the same as cot x. So our answer is negative cot x.